this. So
got it.
everyone always says I'm busy, but Eugene Peterson, who was a Christian writer, once said that the adjective busy in front of pastor should have the same response as adulterous in front of husband. So I have a hard time saying I'm busy. So I'm not busy.
How do you I mean, in the sense that it is a great sin to be busy, or
yeah,
I don't understand.
I think it's more like hurry versus busy. It's a great sin to have the internal experience of hurry. Let's say that, because
okay.
It's sort of, you got rid of it. Oh, there's the Vatican's gone.
Yeah, okay. Well, now you see my boring wall, but okay. Anyway, I wanted to honor my the daughter of a friend of mine. She made this for me. So
that's lovely.
And this is by my niece, but she can hardly see it. Anyway,
yeah, that's lovely.
It is. I don't have kids myself, but I used not to like kids at all, but I see why that was a mistake. They are very cute.
Children are a gift from God. They really are.
Yes. Well, and yes, I see that now. But anyway, so it's so nice of you to do these things, Paul. I really enjoy this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I'm really glad that you've taken the time to talk to me and to put yourself out there. And like is always the case, I record this and then I will share it with you. And if you decide that this is something that, you wouldn't mind me sharing with the world, then maybe I'll share it on my channel, because I think people are the best thing about this world. And so why not share more of them? So
yeah, it's very special what you do. I've seen a lot of those conversations. And is there any, is there a mission behind the idea of the Rundos Conversations? Is there something you want to, an aim that you have in mind?
Yeah. So I've told the story before. So my father was also a pastor, and pastored a small, insignificant church in Paterson, New Jersey, just like I pastor a small, insignificant church in Sacramento, California. And, I grew up and there were so many wonderful people around me who I knew the world would never know. And then I was a missionary in the Dominican Republic, and I knew pastors and lots of people in the Dominican Republic who were amazing, wonderful people. And I knew that the world would never know them, because no one will write a biography. They might get a mention in something or another. And part of me says, well, on one hand, I'm a Christian, and I say, well, I don't believe this is a real crime against the universe, because God knows. Yes. And in the age to come, I think the saints of this life who go unseen will be celebrated, and that's a good thing. But I want to get a jump on the age to come by at least exposing more of the small hidden saints to the world, to let the world know. Well,
you've got the wrong one. I mean,
well, and that's part of why
the sinners of the world. Saints. We are called to be saints, but I have been Orthodox for a year now, so I'm not there yet.
Well, almost all the saints are sinners, but not all the sinners are saints.
No. No, but it's also, even seeing yourself as a sinner in a proper way is a challenge, I think, because you can okay, so in Dutch, the word for sin is zonde, and it has such a heavy feeling to it. Nobody likes it. Probably it's the same in English, maybe I don't know.
I don't think it's as heavy in English. And what you say really rings true to me, because in the Dutch Reformed tradition, sin is a heavy word. Yes. And I don't think it's quite so heavy in English out there beyond the Dutch Reformed. So I think you're probably right that it's something to do with language.
Yes. By the way, just a small plug, but this book actually is very nice, How to Be a Sinner. It's by a Russian Orthodox theologian. It's You can look it up. It's by Peter Butiniev. It helps me actually to get the right feeling, because I think I have, for some reason, so I was not brought up in any strict Reformed tradition. It was very light Christianity, but for some reason that heavy sense of sin has stuck with me. So I'm still learning. It's a work in progress. And
well, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a heavy sense of sin. It's just that that heavy sense of sin should give us a sense of Christ's glory in addressing our sin. Because light things can be addressed by light things, but something as heavy as sin needs something as heavy as the Son of God going to the cross and rising from a tomb. So it's not a bad thing, but you're right. You're
right. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, let's get into your life a little bit if we can, if you're open to that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I was preparing for that. So I'm Rene. I didn't even say that, but I am, and I'm 40 years old. I have studied mathematics. For some reason, that feels like a part of my identity, so I mentioned that. I took a PhD in mathematics, and so it's really a part of my identity. And I also have a facial paralysis called Mobius syndrome. So the OE, I think the German pronunciation, Mobius. I think English people normally say Mobius, Mobius. I don't know.
Mobius sounds right.
Mobius. Yes.
Is that the worst part of the syndrome? Is facial paralysis? I know it's significant, but there's no other significant long-term health implications.
No, I mean, not in my case. In most cases, there isn't. Some cases, people have deformed extremities, even other. I think I don't have a light case. I don't have a particularly heavy case. I'm in the middle. It's quite rare actually.
How long have you had it?
Since my before my birth. I mean, it's really? Congenital. Yeah,
it's congenital. Oh,
yeah, it's something that happens in the second month of the mother's pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. So I'd never heard of it before.
No, it's quite rare. I think 1 in 100,000. I don't even know. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah. Now, well, maybe it's more. 1 in somewhere, but yeah, rare enough. It's sort of, it has shaped my life, I think, although it's hard to say exactly how, because I mean, we're all still individuals. So, for example, I mean, one thing I'm struggling with now is, well, we talked about children, and some children, they are very nice. Other children, they stare more, and some children really stare a lot. And I always got very upset with that. And sometimes even, told them off or asked their parents to tell their children off. It's not good, but and very often people will tell me that they're just kids. They don't mean anything. But that's not how I felt, and I was even more annoyed when they told me that. But yeah, I am learning this, that they are children. They are just children, and they generally don't mean anything. But it's something so that's also part of my personality. I figure that not everybody will take it as heavy as I do.
Yeah.
So it's something that you have to learn to navigate.
Yeah. Well, especially as a kid. I mean, you now as an adult, children are different to you than when you were a kid, when they were your peers. So it's a wholly different thing.
That's certainly true. I think, maybe it has to do with childhood memories, because indeed children are not so angelic to each other, of course.
No, they're not. They're still human beings.
But still, then it's A couple of days ago, I read a post by a friend of mine on some forum, and he said, he mentioned what he had gone through in terms of bullying and all that. And I thought, well, he's got it worse than I did. And he's a good looking guy, you know? So
yeah, that's right.
I mean,
That's right.
it's really, there's nothing special about it. That's the mistake I still make, I think.
Mm.
But
So
it's sorry, go on.
no, so did you grow up in a religious home or not a religious home?
Yes, Christian, but very light. And I think, you know, there's this liberal strand of Christianity. It's Nederlands hervormd. I say it in Dutch because
the PKN.
Yes, but that's very broad nowadays. I think it has all kinds of yeah.
Was it the HKN or the GKN?
Yeah. Oh, I think H
Yeah,
is
the state
hervormd.
church.
Yeah, the state church.
I can't say it in Dutch because I have an English throat, as my Dutch neighbor used to say.
Yeah. No, it's the same religion as our queen and our former queen and current king. They're just, you know, it's a very middle of the road, and I don't know. I drifted away from it mainly because I thought I was kind of infected by this idea that it is a silly story, and we don't believe, you know, a well-educated citizen doesn't believe that stuff anymore. And I think at some point I started believing even weirder stuff. So because, well, when you get to a certain, when I got to a certain age, I started wondering about life after death. And, you know, it has always, I was always agnostic. I was never, but then I decided I had to know the answers. It's not enough to be agnostic. You need to know something, because you don't, the funny thing is, a colleague of mine once said that it is impossible to know what's after death. So better not think about it too much. But that's not true agnosticism. Agnosticism stops at I don't know, and maybe it is knowable. So, well, if it's knowable, or it might be knowable, then go find out. Sorry,
no, that's perfect.
Don't
and you're actually
sense,
giving me sermon material, so keep talking. Because I'm preaching on 1 Thessalonians 4 and 5 this week, where Paul wants to talk about life after death and the resurrection and to the pagan world. And so what you just articulated is very commonly human.
Yes. And then I've started, do you know Gurdjieff, for example? Gurdjieff, the fourth way. Well, that's an esoteric teacher. And I got into his ideas at some point. And that's what I meant by saying I came to believe weirder stuff, because at some point I thought, well, I have to know the answers. And this was a very intelligent person. I mean, very smart.
What was his name?
Gurdjieff, Gurd. Well, I can chat it. Maybe put it in the chat. Yeah, I can. But he was an esoteric teacher of the early 20th century. Well, he was born in the 19th, and I think I spelled it right. Yeah. Anyway, so, and for some reason that captivated me, and I was still agnostic, but I thought, well, he might be onto something. It was so compelling, and he didn't write. That's most of the stuff I read was written by his students, and well, he had his ideas were a kind of synthesis of all kinds of esoteric traditions, and he really. It was really authoritative in the sense that you really got the idea. So, sorry, he gave you the idea that he had done all the work himself. So he had gone out and went to monasteries and to ashrams and I don't know what, and to deserts, and he had collected all the wisdom he could find all over the world and then put it together in a coherent system. And um, and I really believed it because there was so much to it that I recognized from other systems, like those the idea of the world as consisting of concentric spheres, and so the Neoplatonic influences Buddhism, Hinduism, and so I contacted a Dutch group that was actually that performs that because it's not just ideas; it's a way of life. So there's a Dutch group that lives according to his ideas, and yeah, and then I don't know. It was also very bleak in a way because so Gurdjieff's ideas are about waking up. We are in sleep. It's extremely difficult to wake up. So, and actually, his best students, he was very pessimistic about those their actual chance of succeeding. So it was really very bleak in fact. So yeah, I stopped doing that. But then I after a long time, I went back to the Bible and I thought, well, if I can believe all that very crazy stuff, why can I not believe just this guy, Jesus Christ, who just is so sane compared to. So that's how I got back, and yeah, I don't know. It has been. I'm so happy with it. I found a church, and it's still a struggle. I told you about sin and all that. It's still, yeah, but I think it's good. So that's how I found you actually, because you were doing these Jordan Peterson talks, discussions, and I thought it was, oh yeah, Jordan Peterson was another guy who was really, of course, everybody's influenced by him. So, but he told me, get your life in order, get your stuff sorted out. You pathetic loser, whatever. But then I thought, okay, I do feel I need to do that, but why? He didn't provide the ultimate reason, because what if I don't? And then that's what I found in Christianity. It's really a black and white choice. You either choose the good, you don't choose the good. You choose to remain in your sin. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you've said this all very well. I don't interrupt people when they're doing well, or if I can at least hold myself back if I get too nosy and curious. So
no, that's what, yeah, but I'm so in the middle of it all, I'm really in the middle of it all.
So you said you've been going to the Orthodox Church for about a year?
Yeah, a little less than a year, and I just got some received last month. So I'm only because I was hesitant for a long time because I wasn't sure if it's the right church. Can I do it? Can I do this?
Yeah.
And when I finally got received, it was very nice because people were so happy.
Yeah. Tell me about your church. Is it a big church? Is it a little church? Does they have a building? Is it a rented space?
It's a former warehouse, so it's very nice. They did it. They really renovated it. So it looks like a really authentic Russian Orthodox church. And but it has 4 stories, and the priest, he lives on the 2nd story. So it's very nice. It's so cozy because we all go after services. We go upstairs. We have coffee, and we have the catechesis. How do you say catechesis?
Yeah, that's right.
We also have it there, and it's a small community, and we have 3 services a week. So I mean, a lot of opportunity to really get into the life.
Oh, wonderful. That's really wonderful.
yes, I realize that I've really been very lucky. So,
Yeah. Because part of it is, even if you decide, okay, I want to investigate the Bible and I'm curious about Christianity, I want to investigate that. Finding a good church community is not always easy. And so people will often ask me, the first thing I'll say, well, are you asking God to send you to one? Are you praying? Because that's really where to start. You say, okay, you need this. Well, say, okay, Lord, I want to follow you. I need some people to travel with. Show them to me. And sometimes you got to go through a few, but it sounds like a wonderful situation.
yes, yeah, I don't even think I did. I did it. I prayed more after I found the church, and I thought I wasn't sure if it was the right one. I really struggled with that, but uh, yeah, but I do see it's it's sorry, kind of lost a train of thought there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So you found my channel because I was making commentary on Jordan Peterson, and
Yeah,
and you stuck around, and I'm sure you've watched Peugeot as well.
of course, yeah, of course, yeah. It's he's he's a prophet, I think you call him, right? So it's yeah, I treat him as such because it's difficult to know what to do with him sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I think I'm a very I need a very simple I want the things to be as simple as possible, because I make them too complicated myself. So I think I could well, Jonathan Peugeot has these complicated theories in some way, and also it's not so clear because he's a prophet. I mean, he doesn't. He's not somebody who cites all his sources and all that. So you really, what do you do with that? I mean, it's very nice, but that stuff about Ethiopia and I think, where does he get it? Where does he get it? I want the sources. If I can't get sources, it's very intriguing. It is. But
Yeah. Yeah. It is very intriguing.
yeah,
So what's on your mind today? What would you like to talk about?
yeah. Well, that is I really want to congratulate you on those couple of videos you made last week or 2 weeks. Well, you made them earlier about the role of men in today's young men in today's culture. I really think that's well. So you got responses in the comment section like "Welcome to the manosphere."
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Or is this something you're comfortable with even?
I
With
don't
those?
think about it much at all.
Oh,
Anybody who watches my channel long enough knows that my channel is about as ADHD as I am. And I'm onto things for 2 or 3 videos, then I'm onto another thing, then I'm onto another thing. But it is, so some of these man issues, I mean, some of them were brought home to me when I started doing the local meetup and started talking to young guys in their 20s and 30s. And then when my sons came into their 20s and 30s, I could see it more clearly. So, I mean, figuring out, I mean, I was never good with women. Let's call it that way. I was scared to death of them.
oh, that is. I mean, that's normal. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I mean, yeah.
So and I eventually, was able to find a woman who was willing to marry me and settle down and have children, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's not an easy thing figuring out, and then once you're married, then you have to figure out marriage, and the issues about men and women don't end once you're married, because those dominant paradigms or archetypes out there in the culture are still continuing to mold and shape the man and the woman in the marriage. And so they've got to figure that out. Yesterday I had a, meeting with a group of my co-pastors in the Christian Reformed Church in this region. And, the issues of, women's roles in the church, what is permissible, what is good, what is not good. These issues don't go away. And these issues are tied to far deeper issues. And so I want to use, I like using my channel to think out loud and to get responses from back to me from thinking out loud. That's really helpful for me, because we all see the world through these filters and these narrow frames. And I also want to model, we asked earlier why I do these Rundos conversations. I also want to model the courage to think out loud. Because that's, now I can afford it in some ways. I remember when I first started this, one of my sons was like, he said, he was playing around with blogs and some of that stuff, and said, should I start a YouTube channel? I said, no, you're only in your 20s. I'm in my 50s. My career is mostly done. I have reputational standing and ballast, and I probably can't do YouTube for 50 years because I'm already in my 50s. So I have less to lose.
I see. Yes. Well, there is something at stake, definitely. And I felt that too for like 8 years now, I think. That's the whole, the culture wars, say. Of course, it goes back longer, but that's when I first got into them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, you're right, I think, that this is something we have to figure out. Because we can't we're all part of it. So I'm part of it. So I was talking to a friend of mine about this just before we did this call, that this was on my mind. But it does come back to you. You have to grapple with how to say difficult questions yourself. How do I? So, for example, Christ says, one of the things that really has always hooked me, when you look at a woman to desire her, you have already committed adultery. And
in your heart.
Yeah.
And the difference between in your heart and in your bed is a significant difference.
No, it is.
Christ's
but
words
it's already,
notwithstanding.
no, certainly. I can imagine. But the thing is that that's what feminists will say about being objectified,
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I've never really liked feminism, but in the sense you have to give them their due. It's not simple like they're wrong and I'm right. No, they have a point. Yes. Even though I still don't like them. So, no. But it's complicated. And for me, I think the solution has been, to look for the truth. So what's so look inside myself, what I have to fix about myself. But also then it still interests me what's wrong with the culture, because the problem I don't think is all within me. I think we're all talking about it, so we know that it's not just us. But yeah, so the position of young men and men in general interests me. It also, because it's an invisible problem, I think also. You hear all this stuff about men who are just basement dwellers and not getting their act together. And I think the Jordan Peterson solution is a very specific kind of solution that works only for some people, because it's not so, for me, it's not so easy, to just take on responsibility and your life will get meaning. I don't think it works that way, because not every kind of responsibility is equally meaningful. I have a job, it doesn't really feel like very very, very meaningful work to me. So I could just tell myself, oh, just buckle up and, bear all the load you can. And suddenly then it will, magically there will be meaning, but I don't think it works that way. And I think there might be very many men who are drowning, who are actually not being heard, not being seen. And well, I don't know. I don't know what to do about it either. But
what you just said there really gets at where I've been kind of. So lately I've been watching this guy out of Macau, Hans-Georg Mueller. And when you say men who are drowning, not being heard, not being seen, part of what Christianity offered our culture was where we started this conversation in terms of why I do YouTube channel, why I do Rundos Conversations, because deep in our culture now is this need to be seen. And I think part of what a theistic culture offered was the knowledge broadly put out into the world that even if what has now become sort of this media eye of Sauron, which sees, hobbits and orcs and wizards, even if we are not seen by the big media eye of mass media, or even getting status on the social media platforms, you are seen by God, and you finally live before an audience of one, and that one is the most important one of any. And this came home to me when this one woman started coming to my adult Sunday school class a number of years ago. She was a friend of a longtime member here who she just started coming to Sunday school class. And she's an African-American woman in Sacramento in her 70s, who, such a lovely woman. Her son had some medical problems, and the medical problems destroyed his kidneys. And so he needed a kidney. And so she donated one of her kidneys to her son. And I know her and her sons, and they're wonderful men. And I just cherish this woman. And she would always, in our adult Sunday school class, tell me these stories of her mother. And her mother grew up in Jim Crow South. She's an African-American woman, had no status. And she would always tell these stories of her mother. And one of her mother's favorite phrase was, God knows. Something bad would happen in the community, and she'd look at her daughter and she'd say, God knows. And this knowing, I know sometimes to some people feels threatening, but it's also every saint finally performs before his or her beloved, which is the one who knows all and sees all. And that, when it disappears from our culture because of secularity, is a tremendous loss, and it makes people feel insignificant because they no longer have one who knows and sees and loves and can glorify. So I think it's a vital point.
That's very beautiful. I think that's exactly how I found the faith. Well, not exactly, but that is very much, because that's exactly what I said. There must be many men drowning and not unheard and seen. Well, how do I know that? Well, I felt like that, and it's not that, but it's not like, oh, I feel unseen and I want to be seen and let's believe in a God. That's not what I did, It's quite the opposite. When I first read Christ's words and believed them, I was absolutely terrified, Matthew 25, terrified. So it's not like I was looking for consolation, but it is the answer to that problem has been for me, because I felt marginalized. And even though rationally I thought I should not feel that way, because, my life was, by any objective standards, it was not that bad. There's many people that have it way worse. But still, I was feeling disconnected and lonely and self-pity. So this idea that God sees you, then that's what life has to be for. And it makes sense, because if it's not for that, then if it's not for that, it's all for things in this life on this earth. And there's going to be a moment that all your dreams have either been fulfilled or not, but it doesn't matter anyway because you're dying or whatever. And then what? So it's, yeah, no, I don't know. And you know it. I've always somehow known it, that there must be somebody who sees all. I can't even explain that why, because I was brought up as a Christian. So I think it has never really left me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I love the way you said that. And the realization, which I see again in the secular world, there's going to be a moment when either you achieve it or you fail it. And then, so what? You know, if your great achievement nobody sees, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody sees or hears.
Yes. Yeah, that too. Yeah, but what you said about it can feel intrusive, and I think that's what I felt as a kid. I didn't feel so much consolation. I felt like all these impossible standards. You know, like I didn't want God also.
No, and that's very common. Because, well, there's that's I mean, we are talking, we are addressing themes that have been endemic throughout the history of Christianity, and in many ways many conversations about God in the world. You know, it was Thomas Nagel, an American philosopher who was not a Christian, who it's in his book. I think it's in his, I forget which book it's in. I've read the quote a number of times in my videos a number of years ago, but he finally came to the realization of exactly what you just articulated, that I don't want there to be a God. I want to live my life, and I want the world to conform to my desires. I mean, this is in many ways what's at the heart of the rebellion in Genesis 3 in the Garden of Eden, that, hey, wait a minute, I would really like to steer the world the way I think it should be steered. And what's amazing about Genesis 3 that few people notice is God sort of takes a step back and says, okay, if that's what you'd like, there
have
you
it
go.
your way. Okay.
Have it your way.
Yeah.
Let's watch and see what happens. And
yeah.
we've been watching and seeing since then.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, it's still it's daunting. I think in Job there's also this. Job says something like that, right? It's hard. I've been reading Job, and it's hard to know what to make of all that, because it's all these different characters speaking, and you don't know how am I supposed to understand it. When Job's friends are talking, are they wrong? Am I to understand that they have a wrong picture of God or whatever? I don't know that. Like one of his friends says, what does he say? Even so, God sees, even in his angels, God sees their imperfections. And I thought, well, should I take that seriously? But anyway, I don't know. Those are the kinds of the thoughts I have, as a beginning Orthodox person. Because, well, the angels in Orthodoxy are more prominent, I think, I don't know, than in Protestantism.
Oh, definitely. Because Protestantism is a lot about at least European Protestantism is a lot about getting rid of the middle realm where the angels are.
Yes.
And Orthodoxy is much more historical, so they'll be much more active and present.
Oh, that's difficult, because then sometimes I do my prayers and I still think that's the difficult part, because I pray and I think, what if the Protestants are right after all, and I'm praying to Mary and I shouldn't be, or I'm praying to my guardian angel and he doesn't exist. I don't know. That's a bad thought to have during a prayer. Maybe I shouldn't pray that prayer then, but okay. I'd like there to be a guardian angel. So maybe that's kind of
Protestantism doesn't deny Mary or the possibility or existence of guardian angels.
Really?
The Protestants,
that's good news for me.
Yeah, the Protestant reformers were just a little concerned that too much attention to Mary and guardian angels might take some of the focus off the center, who is Christ. So,
All right.
Protestantism had some anxieties it was working through in terms of the Catholicism that it met in the 16th century. So that's important to remember as Protestants and Catholics and Orthodox begin to bury the hatchet and appreciate each other a little bit more.
I hope that happens. But well, for me, the most convincing proof that I'm on the right path, it's all, well, much is clicking for me. It's like the people in the church, they are great, and our priest is great, and I think.
And what I hear from this is exactly what I would want to hear for you, is that you have found a church that has real community, and you have a priest who knows you by name and is interested in your life, and that you can talk to, and that you are, because I think so often, especially on some place like YouTube, we would imagine that being a Christian is filling our heads with all the right knowledge. And now having your head full of right knowledge is an important thing, but you don't get that idea from reading the New Testament, that it is the only thing or the most important thing. It is your life in Christ, and that is in fact your life in the church, and that's what you're pursuing. And so you're on the right track.
Yes, that is true. I make that mistake, that I'm reading all that stuff and simultaneously thinking, when I've read this book, I have progressed on my path, but it's not like that. It's something that is not even all my own doing. Well, of course it's not, but that helps me to realize that. So when I was thinking about what is the right church, well, if God is not helping me to make that decision, I don't have any hope of finding the right church. So I must also have faith and trust in God. But
that's exactly right.
That's hard sometimes.
That's exactly right.
We all have to hope for the best, I think. That's I think, I hope
the just live by faith. And that's exactly what you're doing when you, okay, I'm going to try this church, and I'm going to invest in it, and I'm going to be regular in it. And I'm going to, now a church is not at the level of, let's say, a marriage where it's till death do you part, but you begin into the community. And I think you said it absolutely perfectly. If God isn't helping you make the right decision, then what do you have?
What hope is there?
Yeah. So I think that's exactly right.
Well, that's great. I don't know much. I don't know what else to say. It kind of became a compulsion for me. So in April, I think I started checking your calendar. And then I just, it became a routine to check it, because, and then when I finally got a date, I thought, oh, what am I going to talk about with Paul? Because by then, I was already more, by now, I'm already more secure in my choice, for church. So, but I still think it's, it's so nice also that you're Dutch. Oh, you have Dutch ancestry, I mean.
Yeah.
That's special. So I thought I have to speak to Paul.
Well, I do want to someday. I hope to get to the Netherlands.
Yes.
And I very much want to go. And
you have a very busy schedule, I think.
Well, and getting over there at some point. And I know John. I want to go with John Van Donk.
Yes.
Because he can John Van Dock's just always fun to be around. He's such a good friend. But and I want to see where Job lives, and I want to hold Job's baby.
Oh yeah, you should go.
Have you met Job at all? I know the Netherlands is a
No,
fairly
no,
small
no.
country. You should meet
No,
Job. You
no,
should
that's
definitely meet Job.
okay. Well, I'll look him up then.
Yeah, well, you can find him on my channel if you just search Paul Vanderklay Job. There are
Okay.
whole numbers of videos that I did with Job early on, and he became a rather important part of the community that then sort of developed. So,
So okay. So if you come when you come here, will there be enough PVK fans to hold a Dutch meeting? Or...
oh, definitely,
Okay,
absolutely,
good. Then we should. I think. Come on.
absolutely. We will if when I get there, we will absolutely do that. We will absolutely have an event. And
That's
I don't know
fantastic.
where we'll do it or how we'll do it, but there's
Well,
certainly
I'll be
enough
there.
of you. So, and in fact, I've still got some shirt tail relations who are in the Netherlands, because when my sister visited the Netherlands when her daughter was taking a semester in Spain, there's some relatives of, I don't even know if they're on my father or my mother's side, but you know, both sides have relatives. So,
Oh, you do.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them, but they're out there. So, and I could find them if I work hard enough.
yeah. Well, I think it's also a sort of Dutch inferiority complex that we are so thrilled when somebody from the USA has any significant connection to our country. But
Wow.
it's now it was really a coincidence.
Well, the
Magic
Dutch
coincidence.
have status in the Christian Reformed Church because that's
Yes,
the
that we do.
motherland.
That we do.
So,
Yeah.
well, Rene, this was an absolute pleasure. Is this something that you think you'd let me share on my channel, or do you want to review it first?
Well, let's take the plunge.
Yeah, let's take
If
the
you think,
plunge.
if you think it's shareable, I go with your judgment.
I definitely think it's shareable. I think this was a wonderful conversation, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I'm so glad you're very smart in being disciplined, because I tell people, I say, I open them up a week at a time usually, and so and they go right away. So you have to be disciplined. So
yeah. I saw one before, but I couldn't make that one. So this was the second time I saw one. Thank you very much, Paul. And I'll definitely be watching more of you. I think may all your endeavors go well.
Well, thank you, Rene, and the same to you. May God bless you, and may God bless your church, and may he continue to bless your growth in him.
Well, thank you. God bless you too, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.